Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents The Corner Bookstore, hosted by Red O'Loughlin. Step into a world where every story inspires. These pages come to life through the voices of authors from around the globe. Written by our global community of TV show hosts and best-selling authors, these works span genres, generations, and geographies, united by the power of storytelling. Discover your next favorite book and meet the minds behind the work. Thursdays, only on USA Global TV and Radio.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Loughlin here on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And today, my shows, I got 3 shows today, but the first 2 shows, the Corner Bookstore and immediately followed by the Wise Ones, are truly global. My guests today are both from the United Kingdom. Of course, we're on my presentation on Talking Heads. The third show today is from Texas, another global powerhouse. But my first guest today is KIM-ADELE Randall. She's also a TV host on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And we chatted just recently, let's put it that way. She's an author, best-selling author. She's a business consultant, a leadership coach, podcaster, keynote speaker. I'm sure she'll do your dishes too if you really need to have them done. Lots of things that she does. So Kim, please join us up here.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Red. And thank you for having me.
And there's no promise on the dishes, by the way.
I would give it a try.
Welcome back. It's been a little while, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you.
Oh, and to you, Red. And all the best wishes for the festive period for you and for everybody watching.
Oh. What's the weather like over there where you're at?
Typically British, very rainy, very dark, and with a really nice addition of a really cold wind that just whips through you. But, you know, we're British. We would struggle if we didn't have the weather to complain about.
And if you don't like it there, you go further north?
That's it. You can always move.
I was mentioning backstage, I was down just before the show and looking out the window, and right there in front of me is a orange and black butterfly, monarch almost, and I have lantana out in the front, and he's sitting there and they're flapping and sucking on the lantana flowers and stuff, and so that's just kind of a really nice way to just take a deep breath and walk upstairs and start the show. So that was kind of my psyching up for today's show was a butterfly.
Oh, how lovely.
We're in our typical winter weather pattern here in the Houston area. 75 to 80, most, yeah, maybe through the rest of the year. We had one real cold night recently, but not to freezing. But it happens, you know, cold fronts come and go and whatever. So anyway, let's get to you. Author, let's really concentrate on that aspect. You've been a writer for a long time, but when did you decide to actually publish a book?
So my first ever published one was a co-authored one, and it was back during the very first lockdown. So during the very first lockdown, I see on the screen you've got my latest one, but my very first one, somebody rang me the very first day of lockdown and said, Kim, we're writing a book on remote working, and you've led remote teams for years, so why don't you co-author? And I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't write a book. I can't write a shopping list. And they were like, well, you're locked in with a 2-year-old. What else are you going to do? And I was like, well, I guess. When you put it like that, there's not much else you can do. And so we went, I wrote the book, and I was given 5 days to write my chapter. And on day 10, we published. And on day 12, I was on BBC Radio London talking about how you become an international best-selling Amazon author in 6 countries in the middle of a pandemic. I was like, I really don't know. But I guess my reason for sharing it was around that the opportunity comes, you have to lean in. And the same, I guess, is true of my most recent book, which is a children's book, which again came through as a bit of a fluke opportunity, and the whole stop telling yourself you can't and just lean in and see.
Oh, I remember we talked about this last time, and you did talk about the COVID, and that's an opportunity for many of us. We've kind of shifted from in-person networking events, signings, all that kind of stuff, because all of a sudden, you know, being next to somebody was forbidden for all whatever reasons. And so you chose to create a new path, a career, a source of income, credibility, a lot of credibility, actually. We're going to get to that here in just a moment. So was that part of the plan when you actually wrote that first book? Did you see the second, third, and fourth one?
If I have to be really honest with you, Red, no. When I co-authored that first one, I honestly submitted my chapter and went, if it's really rubbish, they don't have to use it. So that was my mindset in that moment. And I guess, yeah, we were in the middle of a pandemic. There was the moment of going, up until then, I was a face-to-face consultant. I went into businesses and kind of ran them on a fractional basis, or went in and consulted. So there was that whole element, which I think a lot of us went through, perhaps probably all of us went through on some level, which was, oh my goodness, what does this mean? What now? And so when the opportunity came up to write, it was a bit more of a distraction. It was a constructive way to utilize the overthinking versus the doom looping of being a self-employed consultant and mum who was now locked in and unable to get out and do what I was used to doing. But I think from that first one, you kind of got a bit of the bug around saying, well, maybe I can do this, and maybe actually it can lead to an income stream, or as you say, increased credibility, but also increased opportunity. So I ended up with a number of opportunities as a result of actually doing the first book, and so I guess to anybody out there that's got, that's thinking about it, I genuinely believe every single one of us has got a book in us. We've got a story in us that is our lived experience, and it's important that we share it. And we can talk ourselves out of it as much as we want to, but until we take the leap and do it, it's still going to niggle at us that, like, we think it's in there. Really, we just doubt ourselves.
It's interesting, Kim, because I've seen figures anywhere from 80, 85, 90% or more that at some point in time in a person's life, they want to write a book, or somebody tells them, hey, you really ought to write this book because of whatever experience they have with the person. Yet about 2% of the people actually write a book and get it published. And every day there's thousands of books that seem to magically appear around the world in some form. So books are being written, but the transition, I have one of my siblings, super successful in everything he's done, but he has absolutely no interest in writing. I mean, and even though that's at work, I don't do that at home. Okay, I understand. Maybe it'll change down the road, and so things change a little bit as we go by. I think as we get older, sometimes we want to have kind of a legacy, and we want to do a memoir or something like that. And sometimes we have a special gift for people. I know Dr. Jacqueline does a lot of stuff on listening, and primarily through her children's books. There's just a series of things there where there's different aspects of listening that she's sharing with kids. And that's really a good place to start. So let's talk about your children's book. You had one come out this month, and that was which I can't think of the name of it right now.
It's called Always With You.
Always With You. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so tell us about that book.
So this book is really special to me, because actually it was never supposed to be a book. It was written as a story for my little girl around the first anniversary of my dad's death earlier this year, and it was really about helping to help her understand that although we feel sad when people have left us, we never really lose them. We can still get back to them. And I read that you shared that there was a butterfly that you saw today, because for me that's one of the things that I believe is when we see butterflies or ladybirds or dragonflies or robins, lots of things, that they're just reminders that our loved ones are still with us, and that we can get to their thoughts, their wisdom, their love by thinking about them and saying, what would they say to me in this moment? And so I wrote it for her. It was supposed to go no further. I printed it as a little PDF so she could take it with her on a day she was facing a particularly difficult day. And her counsellor read it and said, Kim, you need to get this published. And I was like, you sure? It's a very personal story about our lived experience, even down to the fact that my little girl used to call my dad Bumps, because when she was really tiny, she couldn't say Gramps. And it just stayed because he never wanted us to change it once she could. And so I was very lucky. I sent it off to some publishers. I got 3 publishing contracts, and the team at Austin Macaulay have done the illustrations, which are fabulous. Dr. Jacqueline has met my little girl, so she'll be able to vouch for the fact that actually is Scarlett. People who watch my show have met Pudding often, so that is Pudding. And that is Lenny, her favourite little lion that's on there. So for me, it's such a magical gift in that it's her lived experience, and it's hopefully going to help other people who are facing, how do we help our children through the difficult big emotions that we often don't know how to do. And I've been really humbled by the kindness of people's oh, bless you. Dr. Jacqueline did order 3 copies earlier today. And I've had some amazing reviews from people that, including people that run bereavement charities, who've said it's an amazing book and one that they're going to use, which was not its intention, but I'm super grateful that it's its impact.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned a personal word, Bumps, for Gramps. And those things happen. It's a family thing. It's closely held. And I had a sister named Spider, because we were living in Panama, and she didn't walk on her hands and knees. She walked on her hands and toes, like a tarantula, her butt high up in the air. And so that stuck with her for her entire life. And so but again, that was a personal thing. Anybody in the family could call her Spider, but nobody outside of the family could, because that wasn't approved for them to do that. Yeah. So unless you were really a family friend that hung around for a long time and really got to know her, but it's neat that you can share some of those things, because it's unique to your family and unique to the situation. And so the book came out, literally 2 weeks ago?
It did, yeah. So literally 2 weeks ago. And I was so grateful that for the actual launch, I was allowed to go in and read the book to Scarlett's class.
Oh, wow.
So, which was just such a priceless experience.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's so lovely, because she got to be there. She got to be there as well, so she was part of it, and it was her story. And I was like blown away. The kids were so lovely, and asked really insightful questions at the end. So I had one question, which was, how did you make it so realistic? And before I had a chance to answer, Scarlett's teacher, who's just adorable, leapt in and went, because it's their story, it's real. It's like, this is what they do, and it's true. You know, the way we say goodnight in the book is the way we say goodnight in real life, because it was written for Scarlett, so it needed to be honest. If not, it would never have resonated with her.
Mm-hmm. It's not difficult. How different was it writing a children's book versus a business book, which you've had quite a success with?
Yeah. I'll be honest, it was much easier, but I think that's just because it was a story that, you know, I actually wrote the book in 2 days. But there's a part of the book which is a song I sing to Scarlett every night that I actually wrote for her christening, which was 8 and a bit years ago. And the other elements of it are just how we talk to each other. It's what we do and how we say it, and how we have talked through big, difficult, challenging emotions. And so I guess this one was quite easy because I wasn't really writing. It was my leadership book, and I don't know if this resonates, Red, because you've written loads of books and had huge success as well. My leadership book, because I was going, I'm writing a book, and that's what I'm doing, instead of I'm writing a story that I'm giving to Scarlett. I massively overthought it, and I probably worked on it for nearly 2 years, and it was only after the children's book had been accepted to be published, and I was like, Kim, this is a bit ridiculous. So you didn't even think of this children's book until I think it was the 8th or 9th of May. And by the very beginning of June, I'd signed the publishing contract that we decided to go with. And I was like, you managed to turn that around from concept to signing in like 5 or 6 weeks. And yet this book that you've allegedly been writing for like nearly 2 years, that's about the stuff that you do for a living. It's about your earned knowledge base. You still haven't got out there. And so I set myself a target to finish the book, which I did. I finished it in, so that was June. I finished it in July, and submitted it to the publishers to see, and was very lucky and very grateful that they took that one on as well. But I think what it's taught me is that actually sometimes what you need to do is stop the overthink, stop the well, what if it's not perfect? What if I could do this a little bit better? Because actually when you put it to the publishers, they'll help you with the feedback on things that might need tweaking, etc. But at least you're making progress. And I think, you know, progress beats perfection every time.
With the children's book, you have limited text and generally some illustration of some sort.
Yes.
And in the books that I've worked with clients on the children's aspect of things, getting the image and the verbiage to align, sometimes you got to go in there, change the verbiage, or send it back to the designer, say, this is what I need. Did you have any real problems with the images in the text?
The team were brilliant, Red. I can't praise them highly enough, and they involved you in every element. So there was, you know, tiny little tweaks. Like one of the first images that came back of Pudding, he looked really sensible and serious, and I was like, it's just not my dog. My dog is full of zoomies, and he's a bit mad, and that's the character we talk about in the story. So he kind of. And my piece back to them was, any chance he could kind of have a little bit of a smile on his face? And God bless them, they did. They like amended this, and it was a tiny little amends, but they amended it and sent it back. And now on the front cover, you'll see he has got a little bit of a smile on his face, which is so much more my dog. And it was interesting when we saw the first picture. My initial reaction was, he's not smiling, but I didn't say anything. I showed it to Scarlett, and she went, but Mummy, Pudding's not sad. And I was like, well, that makes me feel better. That's not just me being over the top, it is. So no, it was lovely, and they've done brilliant illustrations. And I guess you're right, trying to get them to match up can be challenging. And I think in some of them got a beautiful picture, but actually there's so few words that go with that picture. And I worried about that for a long time, and then thought, actually, don't overthink it. it doesn't matter if some pictures have got lots of words and some have only got a few, as long as the story flows and as long as to the child, as long as the picture makes sense with the words that go with it, instead of I'm trying to balance this out so every picture's got 50 words and therefore you're talking about something that makes no sense to the kid. They're looking at the picture and going, huh? Where's that in the story? So but yeah, you're right, that was a really different experience to kind of work through how this would look, because leadership books, like I normally write, they look pretty dull, don't they? just lots of words and maybe the odd diagram, but very few. It's more around the layout and how easy it is to take away the actions. But this felt so much more creative. I don't know if that feels fair, but it felt like you had to use the much more creative side of your brain.
Well, we're getting ready to go to break here in just a few seconds, but when we come back, you have another book. You seem to, since 2023, come on, you're just cranking out books like nobody's business. And so you just had a book launch December 5th. Now you're having another book launch as soon as 2026 starts. So we'll talk about your next book and when we come back from the break.
Listen, babe, now. 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 Listen, babe, now.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the Listening Mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day. Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, only here on USA, Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Adele Randall here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today is KIM-ADELE Randall. Multiple business achievements, but an author extraordinaire. We're going now to talk about, she just published a book literally 2 weeks ago, and she has another one ready to go. So let's, Kim, please join me up here and let's talk about the next book launch.
Bless you. Thank you, Red. Yeah, it is a really interesting way, like, to think I'm ending the year with a book launch, which was the 5th of December for the children's book. And I'm starting the year with another book launch, which is on the 30th of January. And that's for my latest leadership book, which is called The Curious Leader. And it really is about, in my opinion, what are the key skills leaders are going to need to be successful as we continue in this ever-evolving, ever-technical, fast-paced world, which is to go back to the skill we were born with and then learn not to use. So how do we become more curious about self, about others, about the world, about business, about the economy, about sustainability? Because when we lean in with curiosity, we lean in without judgment. We're there purely to learn and to grow.
It's interesting. Leader is I'm going to say, often misunderstood word. I remember when I started my military career, one of the standard questions that was asked is define a leader. And of course, whatever your experience in life, your father, your pastor, whatever, you didn't have a whole lot of leaders. Now, it may have been, a sports figure, it may have been, a bit, whatever it was, everybody had different views. And so you're sitting there and you're quantifying this leader, of which you are leadership, a consulting coach, and business environment. So you have a lot of experience there. You've seen some of the true leaders of industry, of government, of the world. And are there any traits that you see in a leader that are common, or do they just accentuate what really works for them?
Great question, Red. So you're right. I've been really privileged to work alongside and also observe many leaders. And for me, I think one of the things that really stands out for me that's made those really great leaders different is they lead from a place of heart, not ego. So they lead from a place of wanting the best for the people that they lead, and to get the best out of those people. And I think, when I think about some of my greatest leadership lessons, one of them was back when I was hairdressing many years ago. And they taught us that we needed to listen to the client to understand what it is that they were trying to achieve, to do our very best to help them to achieve it, and to have them leave you feeling like the best version of themselves. And that was the start lesson for me of being a leader. So for the people I led, I used to go, if I could listen to understand what they're trying to achieve, if I could help them to achieve it, and if I could have them leave an interaction with me feeling better about themselves, feeling a sense of increase, then surely that's a good place to start. And over the years, obviously, I've built on that with some of the things that I've observed from really good leaders, and also from people who have leadership in their title but aren't actually demonstrating leadership in their style.
Well, it's interesting because what I see here in the United States, and I'm sure is very common around the world, is that we have leaders that specialize in certain things. Maybe the industry has a growth spurt and you're trying to grow 2 or 3x whatever you're doing. That's a different kind of leadership than when things are fairly stable and you're increasing by 5 or 10% a year. You have those that when everything falls down and now you got to get rid of 30% of the workforce, that's a different kind of leadership. Technology changes, the pandemic, how that affected so many countries, because now instead of having people at work, now they're digitally at work. And so those things all factor in, and leaders have to continue to learn. They just, whatever they have. And so the books that you're providing give some of those insights to say, oh, maybe I need to try that.
I think you're right. I mean, it's about how we constantly iterate. And, my nan used to say to me, every day should be a school day. So in every day we should learn something. And I think, I've been very lucky in my career that I've led big growth organizations. I've also led some transformations and sadly some redundancies. And you learn a lot in those times of challenge. And I guess one of the things that I've learned throughout all of that, whether you're helping a business grow, whether you're helping it transform, whether you're just allowing it to run for a period, is that challenges will always show in your numbers, but they always 100% manifest in the people. It comes down to misinformation, misunderstanding, or miscommunication, because people aren't trying to get it wrong in the main. There's always an exception to prove every rule, but in the main, people are trying to do the right thing. And so actually, one of the things we have to get really good at is people, and listening to them to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve, and then how do we help them to kind of get there. And I think one of the things that I learn is from my experience, a business or parts of a business are always in one of 3 states. So they're either in grow, so they want to expand on where they're going, or they're in run, so they've got as much growth as they're going to have, but they want to maintain, or they want to transform. And as I say, it might be a part of an organization, not all, but we need different elements of leadership skill for each one of those. So although I've ran all 3, I know I'm best in grow and transform. That's my sweet spot. That's the bit I enjoy. The minute I've grown it or transformed it, I get really bored because there's just not enough challenge in there for me around helping shape the culture, helping people go on that journey. But it took me a long time to realize the area that I wanted to optimize, and be willing to admit that meant there was an area I didn't enjoy.
You mentioned leadership wanting to have the people work and grow and everything else, but it seems that there's so many leaders, and I think part of it is you have this leader, this one, and you have several stages. This guy up here may really want to have something, but then you have some blockages down here, and that doesn't get always translated. And so you're down here 4, 5, 6, 7 layers down, and even though I'm thinking I'm doing everything right for the company, it doesn't permeate far enough down to the level that I see something. I mean, I came across my own management theory long time ago, probably second or third company I was with. And I said, there's 3 things that if any 2 of them are good, you're going to stay. If your wages are good, you like your boss, or you like your coworkers, any 2 out of those 3, you'll stay. But if 2 of those are gone, you're going to be looking for something. And heaven forbid, all 3 are bad, because that's usually a situation where everybody's in a downturn and you can't find anything, and you're just, collecting a paycheck, but not enjoying life at all.
It's so true. And I remember probably one of my most challenging roles, and I had to go in, and the organization had faced a major fine and it needed to be transformed. And that involved running my first major redundancy program, which is one of the toughest things any leader can go through, because it's horrible. It's not nice for the people that you're leading. And as a leader, our job is to hopefully give people jobs for as long as they want them. So when you get to that situation where you can't, it is horrendous. And I remember the night before sitting with the board, and they were like, Kim, are we ready? And I was like, well, ready as we're ever going to be. And they looked a bit horrified, and they went, what do you mean? Should we pause? Should we hold back? And I said, no, what I mean by that is I've prepared for everything that I can see. But what I can't know, nor would I ever be able to know, is what impact this piece of information is going to have on those 1,800 people with whatever burden they're currently carrying. Because I couldn't possibly know that. I said, so all I can do is be comfortable with the uncomfortable and hold a space for them to be able to deal with and go through, what that brings up for them, how that feels. And then I remember the next day standing up to announce the redundancy. And the first thing I said was, the first thing I need you to understand is this is not about you. And let me be really clear. It is happening to you and you are impacted. The reason I'm telling you it's not about you is you're not in this position because you're not a great employee. You're not in this position because I wouldn't love you to work for us for as long as you want to. You're in this position because, quite frankly, I couldn't lead you to a better outcome. And for that, I'm genuinely sorry. And I remember my boss at the time saying, why would you do that? You've only been here 8 weeks. You didn't lead them to the wrong outcome. And I was like, they deserve the right to look in the eyes of somebody who sits on the board to take accountability for the fact that they're here. And equally, they need to understand it's not about them, because if not, they're going to take that into their future and they are going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy that is, they are not enough. They're not good enough. And we do that because we're uncomfortable as leaders, because we know no one's going to be excited about a redundancy announcement. And we feel guilty about that. And so very often we go into protecting ourselves mode, and therefore we come across as cold and uncaring to get through it as fast as possible.
You've written several books, I think 1 in 21, 1 in 22, 3 in 23, and now a new one coming out here in 26. And they're all business related, conflict resolution, growth, career paths and stuff. When you start saying, okay, I'm a business consultant, I need something for my credibility, I need something to show my understanding of these different aspects. So you wrote a book, and then you wrote another book. There's lots of things in business that when I'm writing a how-to book, in other words, this is something that can stand the test of time, because these principles don't change. Why did you not choose to say, well, here in the big scheme of things it is, as opposed to coming out with little slices of things? Was it easier to take that slice and develop it?
It's another great question. So I think at the time there were people asked me about certain things, and they seemed to be really interested in that one thing. So I was like, well, if that's the one thing you're interested in, I'll go deep on it for you so that you can get what it is that you need. Whereas this latest one has probably been that comes out next month, has been a bit more of a culmination of, okay, so what have I learned in the 30 odd years being in leadership and observing leadership and being led. And how is that relevant to business today and business in the future? And actually, the other thing I tried to do with the book is make sure it's actionable, because I've read plenty of books. I've read some brilliant ones that show you how to implement it, but I've read some others where you come out of it and you're really inspired, but you've got absolutely no idea where to start. So you're like, I know I need to do something different. I'm really inspired, but what step do I take next? So what I've tried to do in this latest book is make sure in every chapter, and each chapter talks about a specific thing that's happening in business, whether that's about growth, whether it's about conflict, whether it's about culture, but how you identify where you are, because until you know where you are, you can't see what the gap looks like to where you want to be. But then here are some executive actions that you can take right now that would allow you to make that shift, to make the move, to implement the advice that's in there. And then I've also done a boardroom brief at the end of each one that says, as I deal with board level leaders, it's like, if you want this to permeate through your organization, here's how to do that. Because one of the things that we have learned over time is things permeate through an organization if you've got commonality of language that's being used. If you're going down, and when I used to run big organizations, I used to go and spend time every month somewhere in every department. In fact, in the one I talked about where we had the redundancy, we had no money, so I couldn't do much to incentivize people, but I used to do a tea trolley. And every month, even though I was the COO, every month I used to walk around with this tea trolley and meet people at their desk. And they'll tell you then what's going on, because you are giving them your time, you're being present. And when I first did it, I remember going to one area and they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm making tea. And they went, "Well, why are you doing that?" I went, "Because I can." And I went, "What's the catch?" I went, "No catch." why are you doing it? Well, yeah, so do we have to pay you for it? I went, "Nope." And like, "Can I have a biscuit?" I was like, "You can have two." But by the second and third month, they'd come and talk to you at the trolley, and they'd come and tell you what's going on. And about 8-9 months in, I managed to convince the CFO, who was sadly not with us anymore, but he is a very brusque Yorkshireman. And he used to start every board meeting with, "You'd best not be bleep spending my bleep money. And just to be clear, it's my bleep money." So you were really clear where you were with this guy. And I remember convincing him to come with me. And I was like, "Just give me half an hour, but come with me. I promise you it'll be eye-opening." And he spent an hour. And as we were heading back, he was like, "Do you know, I've learned more about this organization in the last hour than I've learned in the last 13 years. And it's because we met people where they were." And I think it's one of those things that we brush them away. We call them soft skills. And yet my comeback whenever anybody says that is, if they're so soft, why do you find them so hard?
Mm. We're getting ready to wrap up this show here. How do people get your books? How do they contact you to speak? How do they get in touch with you?
Of course. So you can get me at AuthenticAchievements.com. Or you can find me on most social media, either as Adele Randall or Adele Platts. The Always With You book is available at Amazon. It's available both UK and America. It's also available at Barnes & Noble and Waterstones, so wherever you prefer. And the same will be true for The Curious Leader when that comes out next year. And I'm always interested in hearing more about other people's stories. I've got a show on this platform, and I've got a show on my own platform. So if you've got a real journey, a real story that you want to share, then please do reach out. I'd love to hear from you.
Audio audience, Kim, K-I-M, Adele, A-D-E-L-E, Randall, R-A-N-D-A-L-L. Authentic, just the way it's spelled. Achievements, plural.com, just exactly the way it's spelled. Kim, thank you so very much. Again, have a wonderful holiday season. Enjoy, and I wish you the best on your next book launch at the end of January. And I look forward to us continuing this conversation next year.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Red. I really appreciate it. Pudding's come to give you his best wishes and best wishes to everybody listening and watching. I hope you all have peace and joy over the holiday period.
If I could put a hand out and let them lick me, I'd be more than happy to do that, because that's what dogs do, and that's just part of communication. So take care now.
Okay.
We're wrapping up the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My next show is called The Wise Ones, and then I have Talking Heads. So I have 3 shows back to back to back today. So with that being said, I'm going to log out and wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. There'll be no show on Christmas Day. I do plan on having a show on New Year's Day. We'll see how that goes. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Take care now. Bye.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.